Welcome to the quarterly IT All Staff meeting. Today we're coming to you live from beautiful downtown Eureka. Now, here's who we're all waiting to see, our CIO, George Akiyama.
Wow, that is so impressive. I got to tell you, it's just an awesome crew here in District 1, literally twice the size of D9 where we were at last time, and very welcoming. I got to tell you, I love these towns. When I first started working, I worked for Bank of America. I did a bunch of travel, Fresno, up and down the state, and I love coming to these types of towns. That's why we end up in Bishop and Eureka, just a great feel, great people. I will say great restaurants. I'll leave it just at restaurants. But today we've got a great show for you, and I also want to say you got to hit that Ask George email group because we're going to take these questions live. I think we've already gotten a couple last night, and we'll be answering them in the Q&A session at the very end of this. I want to start with introducing Brad Medham. Brad, come on up. Hi, Brad. How are you doing?
Good, George. Thank you.
More. Let's hear. So, Brad, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Happy to do it.
I appreciate your time, and you've kind of traveled up and down the state as well.
I have. In fact, I came here from District 9,
From
so
D9
you're following me around.
We're not stalking you. I want to say that. But where are you heading to next? Because that's where we'll do our next quarterly all staff. Do you have any idea? Or?
No, I think this is going to be it.
This is going to be all right. So we're just going to keep coming back then. But have a seat. Let's chat a little bit about what's happening in D1. So what are the interesting things? What's going on?
Well, the entire state, of course, is trying to prepare for SB1, and so that's a big part of what we're doing. At the same time, we're recovering from storms this winter. We had some declared events statewide, about $1 billion worth of damage for just the declared events. In the district, it's over 200 million. So that's a lot of work that we're doing frantically right now to get ready for the next season.
Is that the highest damage that was recorded in any district?
No, actually, District 4 was higher, but we're the second highest.
Fantastic. I guess I would say fantastic, but that doesn't make sense. It's interesting because when the storms were happening, we had one of the worst storms that I can remember, and all the damage was happening. That was the big news. And then it seems like SB1 somehow eclipsed it. I snuck that in there. But it's important to remember, we still have all that storm damage we've got to keep up on.
Yes, yeah, and it's in some places the storm damage is sort of continuing. We always like the declared events because, quite frankly, it's 100% reimbursable from the federal government. So,
fantastic.
So when we have storm damage during a declared event, we track that separately.
And how many lane miles? I mean, it seems like D1's pretty big.
Oh, you're asking me a question I don't actually know the answer to.
Yeah. But it seems like geographically it's pretty large.
Geographically, we stretch along the coast. I grew up in the Bay Area, and I always thought I was a Northern Californian. And then I came here, and I realized that there's a whole section of California that I'd never been to before. So we have, Del Norte County, Humboldt County, Mendocino County, and Lake County in the district.
Certainly a beautiful country. It's hard for me to pull myself out of places like this. We end up doing a lot of these events in, San Luis Obispo or San Diego, but to me, Bishop, Eureka are right up there with those locations. You not only have the coast, you've got this great cool weather too.
Yes. We during the heat wave, we got up to almost 70. So.
Almost 70.
Yeah.
Wow, you're killing me. It's such a nice thing, and that's one of the things that when I was meeting with the district IT staff, we talked a lot about the great weather and how nice it is. And I got to tell you, I'm really envious. Coming from Sacramento, we recently went through a heat wave, and my AC went down in the middle of the heat wave, so I had to run out to Home Depot and buy a portable one. Do you have AC in your house up here?
I do have AC in my house. We don't have it in the building, however, which can be interesting at times.
No, but that kind of tells you what great weather you have up here.
Yes. However, we didn't get to see the eclipse. There were a bunch of us standing outside, sort of like turkeys in the rain, looking up. Never saw the sun.
Nothing? Oh, got it, because it was overcast this morning for me, and it was a little misty as well.
Yes.
Now, there was also a bypass that opened up, the Willits bypass recently?
Yes. Opened up last year after about 40 years of work. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Malcolm says that's like the second biggest opening to the Bay, second only to the Bay Bridge that he's attended.
Well, 40 years of anticipation. We had essentially the entire bypass was full of people, and hours worth of traffic getting off and on. But it was wonderful.
Well, it was a beautiful drive up here from Sacramento. I got to tell you, I really appreciate everything that I saw on the way up here, the forest, the trees, and everything.
You probably had a few places where you had to stop for some construction.
I did. There was one place I had to stop, but folks were very friendly, and I didn't mind so much, especially because it's so scenic.
Yeah. When we have a 2-lane stretch of road, it winds up having signalized traffic control, so we let one group through and then the other side. So.
Got it. The other thing I saw on the way up was a Bigfoot museum.
Bigfoot is a big thing up here. Interestingly, at the north end of the district, we have a series of projects on an area called Last Chance Grade. In that location, the highway is slowly moving toward the water and sliding down the hill, and has been since the 30s, and we continue to repair. But we now own a stretch of redwood because the highway's actually moved out of the right-of-way. But Bigfoot might be there.
Fantastic. Speaking of Bigfoot, we like to do something fun every time, and this time around, we've got a quiz for you. Bigfoot versus Bigfoot. I'm going to introduce Lori Guinan. Hi, Lori. Thank you so much. I know we're going to be talking later. Let me cross in front of you so you can see the screen. I know we're going to be talking later, but thank you so much. You're our interim division chief over project and business management.
Yes.
And because you're the newest division chief, we're going to throw you right up here
get
and get you
picked
involved in a quiz. That's right. This quiz is Bigfoot versus Bigfoot, and we've got the paddles. All right, so I'm going to look for the first to raise their paddle on Bigfoot versus Bigfoot. Are you ready to go?
Ready.
Ready.
All right, here we go. First question. Top speed is 30 miles per hour. All right, Brad. Very good. It is Sasquatch, it is Bigfoot, and a little trivia. That picture was taken close to D1. So the Bigfoot stuff, it's not just a myth, it's real because we've got proof of it. Now the top speed of the Bigfoot truck is almost 60 miles an hour. All right, next question. We got to make it hard for him. We've seen that one. Can be black, gray, white, or greenish blue. Oh, Brad, you were so fast at that. Wow, very good. I think you're right again. It is the Sasquatch or Bigfoot. It can be any of those colors. Out of curiosity for the locals, have you guys seen any of these? All right, just checking. Now, the monster truck itself is blue.
I was thinking Gravedigger, one of those.
Oh, wow, you really know all those. Do you go to the stadium races and everything?
I have grandson.
All right. First appeared in 1979. It's getting harder. Oh, well, the monster, I think, can we go to the answer? The Bigfoot, yep. So you're both right. I can't tell who runs.
I think it was a tie.
I'm going to call it a tie. Now, the monster truck was built in 75 and debuted in 1979. All right, the next one. Can jump up to 10 feet. Oh, I think we got him on that one.
Uh-oh.
No, Sasquatch. Sasquatch can go up to 10 feet. The monster truck can jump up to 214 feet, because they're always jumping those ramps.
Amazing.
So maybe this is a little assisted jump. I need some assistance when I'm playing basketball as well. All right, the next one weighs 10,000 pounds. Wow, Brad, you are lightning fast. You're absolutely correct.
Well, I'm pretty sure Bigfoot doesn't weigh.
Exactly.
You're right. Bigfoot can weigh up to 1,000 pounds. All right. Next one's about kind of movies. Starred in the 1981 film, Take This Job and Shove It. Wow.
I don't take the other just because I can't tell.
It
not
was
sure.
the truck.
There you go.
So very nice. Bigfoot, Sasquatch was in the movie Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes.
Yes.
In 1987. All right, we've got a few more questions left here. Smells like roadkill. Oh, it could have been either one, really, but you're right. It is Sasquatch. The monster truck runs on methanol and smells like methanol. All right.
Smells like victory.
Feels like victory in the air. I love it. All right. Footprint is 11 feet 9 inches. Oh, here we go.
Oh,
Bigfoot.
They said
has a-
Bigfoot, but not that big.
tall. Yeah.
Yes, the Bigfoot footprint is about 12 to 22 inches.
Yeah.
Now the last one we're gonna have a little fun with, all right? Are you ready? And the question is, final question, final round. Mating season is March to April. Wow, you both nailed it. You're right, the monster truck can reproduce any time of the year. Ed, I thought we were running a family show, but we'll work on that. And I think Brad got to the most of the questions first. So Brad, we've got this. I think. Thank you. We've got this wonderful prize for you. You've got to display it, like the monosuit. So that's a Bigfoot action figure. Lori, thanks for playing it.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you.
Sasquatch crossing the road
Thank
sign. So
you.
thank you so much.
Good job,
I
Brad.
really appreciate your time. And Brad, I appreciate you introducing us to D1 and
Happy to be
everything
here.
that's going
You're
on.
welcome.
All right, thank you. Lori, we'll talk more.
All right. Thank you, George.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda, I think we've got more D1. I think it's time for Frank. Frank coming up.
George,
Pleasure to see you on it.
good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Wow. You can tell by the applause, Frank is way more popular than I am here, and rightfully so. Frank, you're the IT district manager in D1.
I am, yeah.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about Frank.
You know, the past year or so has been, I'm pretty involved. We have an 8-month-old at home, so we spent quite a bit of time preparing for that, and now he's just kind of taken over everything. So I've been taking a lot of naps. And,
Now, when you say that,
Yeah,
is
not at work, just to
okay, all right.
clarify.
I'm just checking because D1 is so far from Sacramento. We haven't cranked up that webcam. Mike, let's look into that later on Frank. But
Connection's too slow, don't bother.
all right, so yeah, I remember those days. Sleep was like the most important thing to me. That's really what I wanted.
Yeah, so we're getting through it, but he's teething right now, so it's we're playing that whole game.
All right, so
Yeah.
new family, that's hugely important.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we have a connection in a way. You're a car guy.
We do, yeah, I am.
All right, any
Yep.
particular, are you a Rolls Royce guy? Are you an Aston Martin guy? Are you?
Yeah, the Bentley's in the back parking lot.
That's yours?
Yeah, that's my daily, but
Now, being in Humboldt, then you must have another source of income besides your state job.
no comment.
Okay, all right. So, in addition to the Bentleys, what else are you interested in?
I have a Volkswagen Corrado right now.
Oh, cool.
And I blew that up like a month ago, so it's kind of mothballed until I get some time to work on it with the baby and everything. So who knows when that's going to happen?
I love it. You blew that up.
It happens. you know how it goes.
Well, is this the first time that Corrado's blown up, or your VW's blown up for you, or is there?
This is the third Corrado that I've had, and this is the fourth engine that I've put in it. And I'll probably just rebuild this one and see what happens, but that's down the line a little way.
All right, and your first engine was supercharged, but that wasn't enough power for you.
Yeah, that one kept blowing up. That didn't work out, so we just went with the 6-cylinder.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you have a dream car?
Not really. I like the more obscure stuff. I like the
Okay.
Corrado, and it's something cool you can beat on. The cops don't look at it too much, so there you go.
So you've got a Bentley, and you're interested in the cops not watching you too closely. I don't know, Frank.
No comment.
You know, the other thing I thought you were into, I thought you were a four-wheeler too.
I did. I had a Jeep. I had a Toyota pickup before that. I had my Jeep, got rid of that, and I have a third-gen 4Runner right now.
Oh, cool.
And don't have a whole lot of time to go out to the beach or hit any trails with that lately. So, yeah.
All right, do you have lift on it or anything?
No, it's stock, but it came with a locker, all that fun
Oh,
stuff. So
fantastic.
it does okay at the beach the few times that I've taken it out there.
Nice deal.
Yeah.
You know, the more I ask, though, I think the more worried I get. I don't want to go down a line of questioning about
Thank you.
Frank. But maybe we can find out more about D1. So
We can, yeah. The crew came up here, and we have a really good group of people working here for me. And we made a little video, and I think now's probably a good time to show that.
Fantastic.
I buy stuff, I retire stuff, and in between I set that stuff up.
Help desk, this is Aaron. Okay. Usually on Mondays it's a lot of password resets.
I just do a little of everything.
We don't have any really large cities, so everybody's more relaxed. I answer a lot of emails. My phone rings pretty much constantly. IT, this is Frank. Aaron, are you in the middle of something?
Just helping Bill and Crabtree with the Zen install.
Could you run down there and see if you can figure out what's going on?
All right, thank you so much, Frank. I really appreciate you sharing that perspective. You know, the other nice thing was we've actually captured moments where you're awake too. So I think we're going to archive that. And
My job's done. Sounds good. Thanks for coming up.
We'll see you later. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about updates. You traditionally get an update from me, and you get an update from the division chiefs. For my section, I want to talk a little bit about last year's business plan. Certainly, you remember the pyramid where we had, kind of three sections, transformation, efficiency, and stability. We accomplished many goals on those three sectors of the pyramid. Certainly, we did stuff like O365, which was to 22,000 mailboxes. We did a VoIP implementation at headquarters, and we're looking to roll out VoIP across all the districts and other organizations that don't have them. We also did an organizational realignment. That was one of the big changes we had. And certainly one of the biggest things that came out of that was the realignment of the districts under the Infrastructure Management Division. What was driving that was really to try to arrange like-to-like functions. Certainly, Infrastructure Division before that had, help desk, service desk, network, servers, all the stuff that we saw out in the districts as well. So aligning those functions together under one organization gives us the opportunity to gain more efficiency and more economies of scale. It does mean, though, that IMD is pretty significant now. They're up to almost 400 staff. And you'll hear a little bit about that from Mike later on. One thing we did on the project side was we revised our intake system. We did a call letter. Certainly throughout the year, we get all these requests for projects. And how do you prioritize? How do you know which projects we're going to do on a large scale? So everything above 500 grand, we put the call out for, and we said, all right, what efforts program areas do you have that are coming up? We had about 30 of those come in, and we ended up with a short list of 16. So that way, we're not competing, one project that's maybe a lower priority with a higher priority project. We have our Sweet 16, and those are the projects we're really working towards. On the transformation side, we started looking at BI. So we hired a vendor, Trinity Technology, and they're actually building a BI roadmap for us. Now, Caltrans has a tremendous amount of data. I will tell you that in discussions, folks like Apple and Google are surprised at the quality and the amount of data that we have. We're also sharing data with organizations like Waze. But the question is internally, what are we doing with all our data? How are we planning to manage our data? What are the future tool sets around BI? So we've got a BI roadmap going that should be complete in November. Now, the last thing I want to talk a little bit about is security. Security gets larger and larger, especially with autonomous vehicles, right? Vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-infrastructure communication. How are we securing, right, all this communication and all this data? So we put together a BCP for security. We ended up with about $4 million and 6 positions. And so we're going to see the security program continue to blossom over the next few years. We're getting started on our business plan for this coming year. I think you're going to see some of the same focuses, because fundamentally, working on things that are either transformative, things that stabilize, or things that bring efficiency are going to continue. You're going to see a continued effort for us to make sure we're controlling all of our assets well, whether it's our software or hardware or making sure our folks are working on the most efficient things. And also, Brad mentioned it earlier, SB1, things like that. How are we responding to SB1? Making sure that, we can get those PCs deployed, right, to those folks that are coming in and making sure everything is set for SB1. I also want to introduce our interim chief, and that's Lori Guinan. Come on up, Lori.
Hey, George.
So we saw you early on Bigfoot versus Bigfoot,
Yeah,
so I
fun.
appreciate that. And I didn't know you were a monster truck person. That's
Yeah.
How many of you? How many arenas or how many times have you
We've
gone?
I've gone about 4 times, probably since the mid-80s.
Well, that's amazing.
Yes,
That's
and my
fantastic.
grandsons, I have 2 grandsons, and it's funny how little boys, and as they get older, they just love their monster trucks.
Dinosaurs, monster trucks, right?
Yes,
We kind of get through that
absolutely.
theme.
Yes, yes.
So
Heroes, all
You've
that.
probably seen a bunch through the years. So you've got almost 30 years at Caltrans,
Yes.
about 20 in IT,
20, almost 21.
and then 8,
As
right,
the-
as the DDDA in Fresno.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for helping. I know when we're looking for an interim, you're one of the folks at the very top of the list, so we're so pleased to have you with
Yeah,
us.
I'm really excited that you asked me to come. It's kind of like coming home to, where I began my career in IT. So a lot of good memories, a lot of good work that we've done over the years, and so it feels good to be back. And I'm looking forward to doing some more exciting things.
Well, I think you're already doing a bunch of exciting things. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, so some of the things that we're currently working on has to do with enterprise software. So the enterprise software licensing of products such as Adobe, Microsoft Project, Visio, we have enterprise licensing on those. And so instead of, we have our customers will contact us stating that they need to have one of these products installed on their computer. What we're doing is we're asking them, we're having them verify that there is a true need to have that product installed on their computer. And then we're asking them to confirm the willingness of the division, that they're willing to pay for that product when we have our true-up period at the end of every year. And then the final thing would be to get that division chief's approval. And we're asking that be done in writing. It could be through an email. So, and the reason why I want you all to be aware of that is so that we have a consistent message. By being able to manage our license as an enterprise asset, it allows Caltrans to make efficient use of our state resources while staying compliant with all our licensing agreements. And then once per year, once we have the totality of the licensing for each of the divisions, then we'll go back and we'll work with our vendor on cost for these products. And again, we refer to that as the true-up cost or true-up time. So, and then some other things that we're working on the admin side of IT is, we're looking at our processes. We want to be as efficient as possible. That's one of our goals in Caltrans. And so we want to ensure that, we're streamlining processes where we can. Hiring process, for example, seems to be this long drawn out process. So we're looking at ways that we can streamline that and make it easier for our managers and supervisors to get their hiring done. As well as we're looking at the IT procurement process as well. And so as I continue to get my feet wet and get to know what we all do, there will be a lot more updates to come in the future and new things that we're doing. That'll be good for everybody. So.
Well, thank you so much, Lori.
Thank
Sounds
you.
like you've only been here a short time, but I
Yeah.
got to tell you, really are
Thank
impactful.
you.
So
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
It's a lot of fun. So,
All right.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Tracy, come on up. You're next.
Yep.
Hey, George.
Thank you so much. You got the crew here safely, I see.
I did, yes. It was a nice drive.
I've kind of remarked on this. You're actually probably the best driver among the division chiefs. I feel so safe when you're driving, and I got to tell you, that makes all these trips very pleasurable for me. So thank you so
I
much.
actually enjoy driving and being in control.
Now, wow, that's a little telling. All right, now we're back to the family show part. So as far as driving, now you actually take a bunch of road trips every year, don't you? And
We do.
You tow a trailer and
Yep.
other things?
Yep, we tow a trailer, usually have a couple of quads in the back. I'm interested in the trails around here. Do they allow quads?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome,
All right,
awesome.
so maybe you got to come back up to D1 with the trailer and the quads. and
I
have some
think that
fun.
might be on the agenda.
All right. Can you tell us what's going on in AppDev?
Love to. Morning, everybody. Wanted to talk, seems like the theme today has been around process improvement. So Application Development and Services Division has been working on a number of process improvements. One of the major ones that we're working on is around our change requests. And we're making sure that all of our change requests have the right level of approval. So we're requiring that division chiefs, division chiefs, not me, but the business division chief of the requesting area sign off on each and every one, regardless of its size. So it can be a really small, medium, large, or really large. Those will go over to Lori's area to be reviewed and see whether or not they have to go through the PAL process. And if a request is large enough, it actually needs to go through the intake. If it's a small, minor change, it doesn't necessarily have to go through the intake process. But if it's larger than just a small change, it needs to go through. We need to make sure that it has the right resources, the right people are involved in all of that. One of the other changes that we're making around that is we are, in ADSD, we are combining all of our tracking systems. Right now we have more than one tracking system for all of our change requests. So I've asked the team to get together and come up with a recommendation for an interim tracking system where all of our change requests will be stored. And that way I can do metrics out of there, I can get reports, maybe these weekly reports for George. I can have a little bit more automated instead of having staff do manual reports every week. But ultimately, I know that Mike and his team is looking for a new service desk tool. So I'm hoping that whatever we do in ADSD today, we'll be able to migrate that data into the new service desk tool and be able to get all of our reports from a single system, regardless if it's my division or Mike's or Lori's or Carl's. Another thing that we're doing is we are meeting with all of the division chiefs that at headquarters that currently we support systems for. And in those meetings, I'm going to go over a lot of these changes. I'm going to talk about, you know, the requirement for their signature. So it'll be the division chief as well as their managers below them. And we're going to talk about, you know, prioritization, our workload, because we'll have everything all in one system. We'll be able to see all the different requests, regardless if it's across different sections in my areas. And then we're also going to review with them the results from the application inventory and rationalization effort that we had going on. And we're going to look at those charts and where all of their systems wound up, whether if they're in tolerate, invest, migrate, or eliminate. So we're going to work with them to come up with a plan moving forward for their applications. Want to talk a little bit about SB1. Talked about that. That came up earlier today in discussion. And our team has been actively involved in working with the external affairs as well as DRISI and some of the business areas to develop a really great website where we or the public can look at what's going on with SB1. So that site is live today. And so if you go out on dot.ca.gov and at the top, the banners that change, one of them is SB1. If you just click on that, it'll take you directly to the SB1 website. And you can see all the great information that's already been populated out there. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a map, and there's actually been some projects that have been, that are out there, and you just click on the project, and it'll open up and it'll tell you a little bit more. So as more projects become available and more projects are identified as SB1, more information is going to be out there. So it's a great resource for us internally as well as traveling public in California. And the last thing I want to talk about is when we rolled out the new on-ramp a few months ago, we got a lot of feedback about the search tool. And we knew that it wasn't going to be good. It wasn't great before, but it was worse once we rolled that out. But behind the scenes, the team has been really actively working on implementing a new tool. It's Apache Solar. And we have that fully implemented for all of the websites that are on our Drupal web servers. And it's like, well, what's excluded? Well, it's a very small handful of websites that are not included on that. And of course, that's only our intranet sites. So anyways, wanted to just give you guys an update on that. So go out and try the new search tool, try the SB1. And I know it doesn't impact a lot of you around the changes that we're doing around our change requests, but it's pretty exciting for my division.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. I got to tell you, the first time I used the search tool, everything I put in there always came back Tracy Rocks. I don't know what that...
My team loves me.
All right, there you go. That's a good reason. All right, thank you so much for the updates.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is Mike Nguyen. All right, so I said Tracy was the best driver.
Good morning, George.
Now we're on the other end of the spectrum. I'm sorry, brother, man, but you know, I got to tell you, you were like the slowest driver I know.
What can I say? I'm trying to live up to, you know, my Asian community's reputation.
Oh man, no, I'm trying to change. I'm trying to change all those stereotypes, right? I like to go fast. I stay below the limit, though, for everybody officially on record. But you know, I like to get to places and get my business done. I know you actually have the pedal to the metal on other things. Maybe not your driving, but certainly where you're driving your organization. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. All right, so George, thanks for the question. We have a lot going on right now, but we only have time for a couple of things that I'd like to highlight this morning. So with that, I'm going to go over the IMD, Infrastructure Management Division's reorganization, as well as the BCP's update. So first, on the IMD reorganization, earlier this month, August 1st, the official date for us to realign IT resources, just like you stated earlier, so that we will be in a better position to operate our business functions to deliver quality and cost-effective services to the business programs. That's basically drove all the reorganization, right, and all the realignment. So earlier this month, also the week after the effective date, August 1st, on August 7th, we had an offsite meeting with all the IMD managers and supervisors throughout the state, all the district IT managers, including Frank. We had a great opportunity to have an offsite to really get synced up. Where are we now? Where we're heading? And we really had a great opportunity to have you and Kome, our Chief Deputy Director, to come and really speak, you know, with the group. It was really, you know, an opportunity to hear you guys out, and it really drove a lot of energy, right, for our managers and soup at that meeting in terms of what you thought, you know, of what we are doing as, you know, a management group. So the highlights that Kome and you really, you know, drove home was the important work that we IT people are doing for the department. And that really brought that home, right? And we really were thankful for you and Kome to make the time to go out there and talk to us. But in addition to that, you know, we're all about one organization, one IT. And one of the things that we like to make a change immediately, and we have made that change, is to have this quarterly ongoing report with all IT managers up and down the state to make sure that we're in alignment, we're in sync. We're in sync with your vision, our vision, to make sure that our strategic direction is in alignment with the business plan, such as SB1 and et cetera. But more importantly, we talked about IT operations, you know. Some of the managers, when they received the first agenda, and it was a week long, they were all scratching their head. Mike, what are we going to do that for a whole week, right? But after a day or so, Frank himself came to me and said, hey, I wish we have 2 weeks because the materials that we really cover here, 62 agenda items that we had, you know, for the 5-day long, 4.5 days long, was very informative for everyone. And we would like to do that on a continuous basis at a quarterly frequency. So we will continue to do that. So that's what's going on within the IMD division. I'd like to pivot now to give a quick update on the BCPs. So last year, we worked very hard, including everyone in the districts, collecting inventory, putting together the analysis, and eventually a BCP that went forward to finance, and we got the approval for that. So staff have been working, planning, executing the procurement plan, the $12 million that we got approval for. Here we are in August. It is spent. Right? We spent more than $6 million in networking devices to modernize Caltrans infrastructure. On top of that, we spent about $5.3 million for servers, blade servers, enclosures, as well as storage devices to make sure that we modernize those compute and storage solutions as well. So we're on our way in receiving those goods, And we have a deployment plan that Fred and Gene have been leading those efforts in synchronizing those efforts and the scheduling for receiving and deploying those devices out of the districts. So I think we are doing excellent on that front. As far as the question, you may ask is, well, it's a one-year funding. What are we doing about that? So this year, we are also continuing that effort in teeing up an additional BCP for fiscal year 18-19. And we're asking for a $12 million permanent budget augmentation in our budget so that we can have a sustainable program, so that we have a predictable workload, so that we will be able to continue to modernize our IT infrastructure to ensure that Caltrans can basically achieve its mission, which is delivering goods, delivering the transportation management services for the traveling public. So recently, it was 2 days ago, that we met with the Department of Finance. It was Carl and I and you. We had an opportunity to basically tee up the new BCP for fiscal year 18-19, and I believe it was very well received by finance. So it's looking great. We don't know what lies ahead, but it was very positive from my perspective, and I hope that we'll get an opportunity to speak to higher management and finance, as well as the LAL and the legislature later on this year, so that we'll get the support that we need. All right?
All right, well, thank you, Mike.
All right. Thanks, George.
I appreciate the update. And I got to tell you, one thing that was really significant about that update is Mike talked about getting all the procurements done, $12 million, all procured by August. That was literally the first question out of the DOF analyst's mouth was, all right, we gave you 12 mil last year. Where are you at with the 12 mil? So when we're able to say, not only do we have all that stuff spent, all the purchase orders are out, but we're already receiving product. So that really put finance at ease, because there's a lot of times, they provide funding to other organizations and the organizations just can't get off the dime. So kudos, Mike, that was a big deal. I think you actually started procurement in December. So, that's how long it takes. We've all been through it, to try to get through our procurement cycles. But to start in December, right, to be able to have a response to Department of Finance, a huge gain in credibility for the organization. This leaves us with one last speaker, and you probably have all guessed it already. It's Carl Copper, our Chief Information Security Officer. Being the Chief Security Officer, it's a tough job for Carl, so we've locked him away in a secure bunker that nobody knows where it's at, and to be honest with you, I forgot where the key was at. So I hope Carl can find his way out. But Carl, I want to know what's happening with you.
Yeah, I'm deep underground in the secure, undisclosed location. And my understanding is you wanted me to give a 2-hour lecture on cybersecurity today?
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. I think the more you can do on cybersecurity, the better. So, because information I know is a big part of your role. So please, let's start on the 2 hours. I want to ask the D1 staff where's the best place for lunch, because we may get started early.
So I just have a few things to cover, actually. As Mike just mentioned, we did receive our funding. I received my funding as well. We asked for and received the largest cybersecurity augmentation, one-time and ongoing, in the state of California last year, and we're awarded that here at Caltrans. So some of the things I'm going to talk about here briefly will be how you'll start to see us using that money. But first off, the Department of Military Cybersecurity Assessment is on the ground right now and underway. It's in D1, 2, 4, and 10. We've met with folks from those areas. You know who you are, and we are expecting a report from them to come out within 6 to 8 weeks. Also out of the BCP, going back to the BCP, we have new security positions that we're posting out on the street. And we're prioritizing the new hire for the DPM3 position to help us lead that organization and build out of that new organization. If you have an interest in joining the shop, please take a look at it, keep an eye out for those postings. Then I want to pivot a little to talk a little bit about something that's on fire, in my opinion, at Caltrans as far as security areas that need some work, and that is the remote access multi-factor authentication capability that we lack today. So to have the ability to have a second factor of authentication in addition to your password is certainly a standard for an enterprise to allow remote access. And we have the money and the funding behind us now to start rolling that out. So we'll be working with you shortly, and you'll see us deploying that. Next, local admin rights. Also something that I would put in the top priority category. We have too many people with local admin rights to their PCs, and a lot of people are sitting all day logged in as an administrator. And of course, what that means is if their account is hacked, if they click on the wrong link, that provides an easy vector for privilege escalation. Certainly, they've already got an escalated privilege account local to the box. So we are going to be working at refreshing that list of who has local admin rights, trimming it down.
You know, Carl, you said we've got a lot of folks. Do you have any sense for how many folks at Caltrans have admin rights?
At last count, we have over 4,000 PC users with local admin rights.
That's a huge number, so it sounds like a tall order for you.
It is, and we are looking at privileged access management for a solution to help remediate that down the road, but the first step is to go out and make sure there's a legitimate need for the people who have it today.
You know, that's probably one. I'm sorry, Carl. That's probably one thing, you know, like IT likes to sip its own champagne, so that's probably one thing we need to look at internally first and model the way for the rest of the organization. So I'm sure we'll start looking at who are the right organizations that have admin rights within IT.
That's our first stop, and if you haven't been contacted already, we'll be contacting you shortly if you have local admin rights. That's right.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
And last but not least, the disaster recovery program was raised, or our disaster recovery, technical recovery was raised as a risk in the risk register for the department, and we'll be working on a solution in that area with the operational folks, and hopefully coming up with something that can be tested, which is a gap in the program today. And that does it for me.
Thank you so much, Carl. I appreciate the update. All right, so we're to my favorite part is the Q&A section of the quarterly all-staff meeting. I think we already have a couple. Ron, does everybody know you think in TV land?
I think they do. I've been on the tube a couple of times, so hopefully everybody knows who I am.
Are you talking YouTube or you mean at Caltrans? I just want to be clear.
At Caltrans.
All right, because the whole theme in Humboldt is totally different.
Yes.
All right, so did we get a couple of questions on the Q&A?
We did, you know, and one of the big questions was, you know, when are we going to get rid of Novell, right? So I can speak to two of the three things that Novell provides as far as services. You know, the first one's the Novell client. We're going to begin removing the Novell client beginning next month. So as you know, I've transitioned to new role over the infrastructure field operations division. So John Katayama and his staff will be actually orchestrating that removal of that client, working with Dave Logan and all of you in orchestrating a phased removal of that client. So what are the benefits of removing the client? You know, we're gonna increase security by not having another identity out there for someone to attack. We're going to have a cost savings with our contract renewal next year. And then also we're going to have faster boot times, hopefully. So I'm sure everybody will be looking forward to that. So the second piece is SCCM. You know, that's the System Center Configuration Manager. Currently we use ECM as our desktop patch, workstation application deployment management tool. So in our budget, Mike and George talked about, hey, let's just phase over to a standard, right, which the rest of the state agencies use, and that's Microsoft's SCCM. So what have we done towards moving towards that platform? We've actually worked with Microsoft this year to stand up a test environment, which is going very well. Dave Logan's team is actually doing some imaging, doing some application packaging, doing some remote access, and they're really exploring, what are the like-for-like services we need to transition first of all. So, and then procurement, we've got lined up. Mike did some great negotiation, as he always does, with our vendors, and we've got procurement happening around the December timeframe. So, post that, we'll start to roll out a charter, a project plan to get SCCM, first of all, familiar with you guys as far as using it, the capabilities, and like I said, Dave Logan and his team have a test environment. We'll bring all of you in to start doing that work ahead of time before we go to any type of production deployment. So those are the two things that we're going to do as far as Novell replacement. So,
well, thank you. And I got to tell you, Ron, I want to personally thank you because in addition to being kind of known as the Novell guy and leading some of this transformation for us, so it tells you how important change is in an IT organization. I don't know if folks know you're actually the quiche king too. So
thank you.
So you've brought it half a dozen times or so at Caltrans, and I know you brought it during the IMD managers meeting, and it was a big hit. So I look forward to more of those coming.
Well, thank you very much. And one last thing, I really wanted to have everybody know, I volunteered already. I talked to Russ Watts and the team and said, I want to be the first official client removed from the workstation. So I can lead the way, bringing Novell into the department, and also that's Exodus.
All right, thank you so
George.
much. Do we have other questions, Ron?
We do. And the next one's for Frank in District
Frank, you said Frank? All right, let's see if I can get through Frank again. Now, Bentley, additional funding, did we cover everything?
As far as I know, yeah, I think we're good.
All right, checking. But it sounds like there's also a question about Windows 10.
You bet. So they're interested in what's the deployment, how's the deployment going in Windows, for Windows 10 in District 1, Frank?
Yeah, so it's going, we're basically on the same line that the rest of the districts and headquarters are going for. New machines that are coming in, for the most part, we're deploying those with Windows 10. We're having to talk to the users, talk to the supervisors, make sure they know that there are some caveats to rolling that out. We're starting to receive new equipment that's coming with the Intel Kaby Lake processor, which you can only put Windows 10 on there. There's some limitations where we can't roll that back to Windows 7. So there's been some discussions ongoing with a bunch of people here locally, making sure that everybody knows the score and trying to give everybody the support they need to use it.
Cool. Thanks for keeping us up to date on that.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Frank.
Thanks.
All right, Ron, do we have other questions?
You bet. Next up is Mike. We've got a couple questions for Mr. Wynn.
All right, does it involve driving or?
No driving.
Okay, all right, I'm just checking, because we could be here a while if it's about driving.
So the first question is about home use. Our staff are interested in home use.
All right, so the question has to do with what's going on with home use program. We used to have it, can we have it again? As you may know, that home use has basically been taken down and it's no longer available, for staff use. As part of the Office 365, we are entitled to have each user account access to 5 copies of Microsoft Office Suite, right? But we're dealing with multiple security issues, such as when we open up home use program, then we introduce OneDrive, we introduce SharePoint, and we introduce a wide array of products and services on there. And to be honest, we have not found a way to basically clamp it down so that we can manage our licenses at this time. For example, if George Akiyama is entitled to 5, he can log on.
I should get 6 because I'm CIO. I'm just saying.
You are special,
all right,
but in this case, you have 5.
Wow,
right? Just like everyone
all
else.
the rules apply to everybody
exactly.
else. All right.
So you log on, you'll be able to download 5 copies of Office Suite 2016. The problem with that is that you can go and you can be a very generous person. You can install one for your brother, one for your sister, one for your next door neighbor, and so on. Pretty soon, you basically make use of all 5 licenses, and then you go into the office and you just didn't leave one for yourself. That could be one case scenario that we're dealing with, and we just don't have a way to basically lock that down yet.
All right.
So the home use program that used to exist in the past no longer exists today, and until we find out a way to lock this thing down, there will be no home use program. I'm sorry that that's the case, but it involves multiple control and management issues as well as security that we don't have a good handle on. And we're not the only department that's facing this. Other agencies in the state are facing the same challenges because we have approached Microsoft to ask for, what's the workaround these things so that we can reintroduce the home use program. And they too don't have a good answer for us. So it is a struggle that everybody's dealing with.
All right, but to me, I'm hanging on that word yet. So
there's hope. There is hope.
Good. Just give me hope.
But we don't have a solution or a time frame at this time because we just don't have that yet.
All right.
Be totally transparent with you.
Very good. Are there any other questions?
And the next question is, what are the opportunities for the district staff as far as promotional opportunities?
Excellent question. So part of the offsite meeting that we held earlier this month with all the IT managers and supervisors within the IMD, Infrastructure Management Division, we talked about opportunities for all within the division. And part of that, we talked about uplifting the positions for staff in the districts as well as at headquarters. So I know that your managers are extremely busy running operations in the district. I just don't have all the time to go into the details right now. In short, there are opportunities that I have tasked all the managers to work collaboratively among the districts, as well as with myself and Ron, to come up with a proposed solution so that we can keep cost neutral while uplifting some of these positions to the appropriate levels to run our district operations. So if you haven't had a chance to sync up with your managers, I would highly encourage you to find some time with them and basically say, hey, Mike talked about uplifting positions. What's that all about? Can we talk more about that? All right?
Yeah, and one other thing we looked at this year, we looked at putting a BCP forward, right, for an overall staff uplift. But as we engaged some of our partners, like NHR, they had so much work going on with SB1 and the potential hires related to that, right? They asked that we take this year to work on the story around that BCP and potentially submit it in subsequent years. So I'm hopeful for that from an enterprise IT approach as well.
We will have that, and I hope to have a plan presented to you by the end of November, so that we can execute somewhere in December or in January at the latest.
Wow, really, that soon?
Yes.
Fantastic.
All right.
All right, Ron, are there any other questions?
Not for Mike.
All right.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, Mike.
The next question is regarding training. And
training, all right.
Bet.
Lori.
So the question was, what's the renewal status of CBT Nuggets? So the timing of this question is actually impeccable. We were just meeting about this at our recent IT exec meeting. I'm working with the division chiefs on the needs. We're looking at the needs for both CBT Nuggets and lynda.com. And once we determine where the needs are, then we'll move forward we want to put one contract together for CBT Nuggets and or lynda.com. So it's something coming soon.
All right.
All right.
Anything else, Ron?
Yeah, these are for you, George.
Oh, these are for me.
We saved the best for last.
All right, if they're hard ones, I'm going to give them to Frank.
So we had a question regarding the intake process. You mentioned the
yeah.
Sweet 16 projects.
Yep,
I'd like
yep.
to know really more about that and what's the criteria for something to actually, go into that intake process.
Yeah, thank you so much. So how does the intake process work here at Caltrans? Certainly, and I'm going to speak more towards, kind of a large project effort. So when we did the call letter for IT projects, it was really around projects that are over $500,000. We're going to put an annual call letter out for those large-scale projects, and then we get back with the executive board and others, and we leverage kind of their insight and their knowledge, and that's how we reduce the scope from the 30 projects down to the 16. Those are just the large projects. Though the other projects come in through Lori's organization, through the project management office. If they're not giant projects, if they're not really looked at above 500 grand, Lori's group will do the intake on it, understand kind of what are the business rules, and start going down the PAL process if necessary. And that's the S1, S2, S3, S4 process. We actually have, I think, 2 current efforts in the S2 AA process. I think it's Transportation Asset Management, and CATS is going to get there pretty soon. But for the smaller efforts, under 500 grand, I think it generally starts on an intake with Lori's team.
Great. All right, thank you, George. The next question would be about SB1 dollars. Are they coming into IT? What are we going to do with those dollars if we do get them?
Great question. One of the things we looked at, because we just had a meeting with the Department of Finance, and we talked about what are now really 4 separate BCPs. Hardware refresh again, right? We're going for the 12 mil, but we're going ongoing. There's one about server room uplift. There are some server rooms that don't have good HVAC and don't have good UPS, and so we've got a request moving on that. There's security and privacy. I talked a little about earlier. Carl's trying to build out a privacy program. And the last one was SB1. So regarding SB1, we put forward a ratio to our budget folks that was basically 100-to-1 on help desk, service desk folks. So for instance, if we end up with 300 new maintenance, or actually not maintenance, but new engineers or others, desktop users here in D1, then 3 IT staff is the request. So it's 100-to-1 for help desk, service desk, and it's 400-to-1 for security. So if the department moves forward with 800 staff, then our ask is 2 additional security plus the 8 folks to do help desk, service desk. And that's how money's come in. We're also asking for some associated software, whether it's Microsoft Office or email or those types of things. I think in the future, as SB1 keeps rolling on, there will be opportunities for IT to get to the table and look for other enhancements, whether it's ITS or other elements.
Great. So the next question, George, is back to staffing question. With IT reclass, what's the status of that?
IT reclass, I got to tell you, I've been on that ride 3 times, in my career over the last 10 years. So this last effort got a lot of folks excited, and I too was one of those folks that was really excited. My understanding is, as we got to the bargaining unit table, there were some asks for additional funding, and the current administration wasn't necessarily open to that at this time. So I think they continue to work that. It's a statewide issue. It's Department of, not DHR issue, but it's a Cal HR issue as to try to work through that. I think it's still needed though. Some of the class specs go back to the 70s. And really what in the world is a data processing manager in today's world? What's a system software specialist? Nobody really talks in these terms anymore. So, folks are trying to make the transition into IT from either other classifications or from off the street. It's a whole different language. So I'm hopeful, Ron, that effort picks up steam, but for now it seems like it's moving very slowly. It's more on Mike's driving pace than Tracy's, if I can put it that way.
Great. We got one final question, George, and that's surrounding the IT newsletter. We used to have it many years ago. So the question is, are we going to revitalize the IT newsletter?
Certainly, I think we're open. If we get enough feedback around creating another IT newsletter, I looked at that earlier, probably 6 months ago, and to see if there was much interest, and we just weren't hearing that. So if it's something you want to hear about, if you want to do a monthly newsletter, certainly we're open to all the communication around that. And quite frankly, that's why we do these quarterly all-staff meetings, right? We want to talk to you. We want to hear what your questions are. We want to communicate. But in addition to that, if you're not getting enough of the division chiefs or thoughts or kind of what's happening, happy to start up that IT newsletter. Just keep dropping me lines. We get enough lines, and I'm sure I'll give it to Lori. Thank you, Ron. Any other questions? Well, I think that's a wrap for our IT Quarterly. The only question is, where's the next stop? Any ideas? Yes, Brad? I don't know where that's at. Where's? Brad made him. Oh, okay. Yeah, where is Brad? Is this somewhere in D1? Where's the next IT Quarterly All-Staff meeting? Any guesses from folks in the room? No? It kind of looks like it could be a D9 thing, right? It looks like a D1, but I think Frank just let it out. That is Sacramento. So we're going to stay closer to home. The next one is scheduled for November 30th, and so that's close to the holidays. Although it could be fun to put the division chiefs and others on the road. We're going to stay close to home for the next one. And I got to tell you, you're really going to want to tune in because I think Ed and the crew have something special planned for you. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time as always, and keep hitting that Ask George. It's not just for the quarterly meetings. Use that mailbox to ask me questions or drop me a line, come down. All the division chiefs are very open to that dialogue as well. Thank you.